Right, next, let's speak to the councillor for Gedling borough in Nottinghamshire, Russell Whiting. Now, Russell was one of more than 20 Labour councillors who quit the party across the country over this. Russell, at what point, what was it that made you think, because it's a big deal to stand down from a position in the party that you love and you work for, at what point did the thought hit you, I've got to go?
Yeah, hi Nadine. So I've been a member of the Labour Party for about 15 years, stood for local council a few times, got elected in May, as you say, stood for Parliament in 2015, have given a lot of blood, sweat, tears and shoe leather to the Labour Party over the years, as we all do to our political parties. I was in Liverpool at Labour Party conference a few weeks ago. A friend came over to me and said, have you seen Keir Starmer's interview on LBC? He played it to me. And I thought that's a shocking thing to have said, when he gave support for the siege, the clip you played earlier on. But I thought it's obviously the end of a long week. He's misspoke. He's misheard the question. There'll be some kind of clarification. Then over the next 48, 72 hours, Emily Thornberry, David Lammy, and others sent out to defend that line. And that's when I knew that I just couldn't be part of the Labour Party anymore. I couldn't be part of any organisation where senior people at the top are advocating cutting off water, food, medical supplies to over 2 million people.
So, Russell, what about Egypt? Egypt can get food and water and medical supplies into... Why is nobody talking about the role of Egypt, that Egypt can play in this?
Well, it needs to, obviously the situation in Gaza is so horrible that it needs to be, a region-wide effort. But I think the Gazans on average were receiving about 450 trucks of aid a day. And last week, Egypt let 20 through the Rafah crossing.
Yeah, but why? It's an Arab state, why?
Why would Egypt allow its drivers to go in and put them in harm's way when bombs are raining down left, right and centre in Gaza, Nadine? Israel told the Gazans to move to the south, and since that order was given, they've been relentlessly bombing places like Khan Yunis in the south, killing the very people that they told to move there in order to be safe. This is why we need a ceasefire, so that a proper humanitarian operation can be carried out, not some kind of humanitarian pause to allow people, a sandwich and a bottle of water before the bombs start raining down again. We need a proper ceasefire so that lives can actually be saved.
And part of the reason for those people being moved to the south, though, Russell, was so that they could cross through and they were asked to go to the Rafah crossing, so those who needed to leave could leave. But again, the Egyptians didn't let them, despite the fact that many people were gathered there believing that that's the way they could exit with passports. But no, I totally get where you're coming from on aid to civilians. But, the absolute reality is that, Hamas crossed that border into Israel and with their bare hands murdered 1,300 people. It wasn't targeted bombing, not of civilians, but of known Hamas, where Hamas are gathered and the targets that they need to get to destroy Hamas. Hamas crossed and with their bare hands tore open the stomach of a woman, took out her baby, beheaded it and then beheaded her. These were absolute cold-blooded, evil murders, 1,300 of them, that took place within 5 hours. Now, I, as somebody who is pro the Palestinian people and pro-Israel, not pro-Hamas, understand the right of Israel to defend itself, to rid the world of the evil that is Hamas. And sadly, in every war, Second World War, Iraq, wherever you look, Afghanistan, often civilians are the consequence of the actions. And in this case, they are the consequence of the actions of Hamas. Do you acknowledge that? Do you agree with that?
Of course, yeah. Look, I remember 3 weeks ago, waking up on that Saturday morning and switching on my phone, and the first thing seeing on my phone was the first stories emerging. And my first thoughts, of course, were at the absolute horror that was unfolding. And I've got 2 young kids myself. You don't have to have children to be aware of these things. You just have to be a human being to be aware that these are the most appalling acts that were carried out in Israel. And of course, Israel has a right to defend itself. And of course, I think all reasonable people think that terrorists need to be tackled and need to be rooted out. But you mentioned Afghanistan there, Nadine. Britain and America and others spent 20 years bombing the Taliban in Afghanistan, sorry, because we thought that we could bomb terrorism out of existence in Afghanistan. And what happened in the end? We kind of hightailed it, and the Taliban are back and bigger than ever. You cannot
and that's
bomb
a tragedy.
out.
That is the biggest tragedy of the Biden administration.
Cannot bomb terrorism out of existence, can you? Our own lessons here in the UK with the IRA, we did not bomb Belfast out of existence, or try to, because of the Birmingham bomb.
Well,
or
Russell,
any,
can I just say, I don't think you can compare the two, and you can't compare Gaza with Afghanistan, just even geographically and in numbers, you can't compare the two. I just want to ask you one quick question, but they have to go. I know I'm going over time. So, Russell, do you think you acted in haste? I say that as somebody who resigned herself recently. Do you think you may have acted in haste? Do you wish now that you just thought a little bit longer?
No, not at all. I have zero regrets. The reason that I resigned is because I was having sleepless nights over whether I could still be part of this Labour Party. The reason I resigned is that in the future, when my children ask me about this conflict, at least I will be able to say that I spoke out and I stood up for those people in Gaza when they needed us most.
Well, Russell, there are very few people like you who have a heart and principles in politics. I wish you stayed, even though you would have been on the opposite side of the political divide to me. But good luck with the future, and I hope you go back to politics one day.